4 seconds left, 4-point lead. Ball at the 2-yard line for the Bears. No timeouts left. Here's the snap. Williams looking left. Williams looking right. Williams U-turns, gets away from Huff. Still looking, backpedaling, throws, and it is incomplete. The ball game is over.
It's game day, week 18 from Levi Stadium. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. That was, of course, the final call from week 17. The Niners over the Chicago Bears in the game of the year, maybe the all-time best game at Levi Stadium. They win at 42-38, and they'll be taking on one of their longtime rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, who are coming off a win of their own, 27-10 in Carolina over the Panthers. The winner today gets the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the postseason. Guys, I can't believe we're here. Week 18, and it's as juicy as we've ever had in Levi Stadium history, Tracy.
Well, it's also funny because all the talk of it being a short week, and I feel like that Chicago game was 6 months ago. It feels it feels so long ago, but it is amazing. I was thinking about this earlier. I've got to shout out our guy Todd here, who from the get-go, no matter what happened to this team, always said and believed this is where we'd be in week 18. So, Todd, I want to give you
Todd's
your flowers.
Stradamus, dude.
Hey,
Todd's
I've been a believer. I liked what I've seen all season, and we talked about progressions that this team can make and getting guys. I know there were some setbacks for the 49ers injury-wise, but getting guys back offensively, and this is the team that we thought it would be, a team that could offensively outscore and take care of a young defense, an inexperienced defense, and really a banged-up defense. In the last few weeks, we've seen this offense completely change into being one of the most elite that we've seen, not just this season in the NFL, but over the last decade for the 49ers. They're playing at a super high level. Brock Purdy is playing at his highest level of his career. And as good as it was last week, we're going to see the offense this week with George Kittle. And so I think they can still be better. And one of the things we talked about was a lack of big plays. We saw some big plays over the last 2 weeks.
We've seen a lot of them, a lot of big
We've seen
explosive splash plays and big explosive runs as well. Yeah.
Big runs, big passes, and it's not down the field. It's catch and run, and it's blocking downfield, and it's an offense where everybody is on the same page. We'll see if Trent Williams can go today. That's a big question mark. But overall, this team is playing offensively as well as they've played, again, not just this season, but as well as we've seen under Kyle Shanahan.
Well, as it stands right now, Trent Williams are saying a long shot to play. The report from Jeremy Fowler this morning of ESPN was he's, quote, on the outside looking in, and the Niners have prepared as though Austin Pleasance is going to start today at left tackle. He played well in the absence of Trent Williams, who left the game on the opening play last week. So just circling back to last week and how we got here. Both teams on a 6-game win streak. Seattle's done it in a bit of a different way. They're one of the few teams in the league that's top 10 in defense, top 10 in offense. They have 44 sacks on the season. The Niners are last in the league with 18. If they're to win this game today, they'll be the first team to get a number 1 seed with a bye and be last in the league in sacks, which is, they're, by the way, going to set a franchise low for a season in sacks on the year as well. But going back to last week, I said it to you coming in, best game in Levi Stadium history. I mean, from the jump, from the Brock Purdy interception intended for Juwan Jennings to every possession, every play, to the final play of the game, the defense needing to get one stop, and they get really 2 of them. I mean, they forced the field goal to give the Niners a chance to come back down and win it. Brock Purdy played his ass off. I mean, maybe the best 2-game stretch he's ever had. Tracy, you've seen just about every game they've ever played here. Was that the best game in Levi Stadium history last week?
I actually have seen every game they've ever played here but one. That is crazy. Yes, it was definitely the best game ever played. And I know that you could look at the NFC Championship game against the Lions and say the comeback was amazing, and it was. They were going to Super Bowl. But just from a football game, football fan standpoint, definitely the best game at Levi Stadium. Probably Brock Purdy's best game of his career. And, I mean, just so much fun, too. I mean, I think that's the thing. They're having fun. And that, I think, is the difference that we're seeing here.
Todd, I want to ask you, in the way that game ended, how does that prepare a team like this for a game like today? Because there was so much about whether the Niners were battle-tested or not. And that was always in reference to the quality of teams they were playing. We knew the offense was good. We knew the passing offense was good. But a lot of people would say, well, they were playing inferior opponents. And I think that's fair and true to why the defense maybe looked a little better at times than it actually is composed. That said, what does a win like that on the defensive side and the way Brock played do for the mentality of a team coming into today?
The schedule has been easier, but they've also beaten the 3 best teams in the NFC.
Sure.
They've beaten the Seahawks and the Rams and the Bears. And so, and they've won it in different ways. They've outscored teams. They've come up with big defensive stops. They've played awesome on offense, and they've kind of just battled through a certain wins throughout the year where they've come out on top at the end. That Rams game with Alfred Collins punching out the ball at the end. Like they've come up with big defensive stops throughout the year. So I think what you're seeing right now is a team that believes, and on both sides. If the defense gives up a play, it's okay. The offense is going to pick us up. And the offense needs a defense to step up. They do at the end of the game. They kept them out of the end zone those last 2 drives. And that last play of the game where we heard the call coming back from break, the collective stadium was holding its breath. Like, that was awesome. I mean, Caleb Williams running around and scrambling and play taking 10 seconds, and he skips it to his receiver. It was great defense. And we learned that the defense, a couple players, like, drop into coverage. They only rush 2. And
looking back at that play, because in real time, you're just, you're watching the scramble happen, but the evaluation of that play and the breakdown, to your point, Todd, all week, how hilarious does that play look? It's like the reverse. It's almost the reverse on the defensive side of what the Cowboys did a few years ago when they ran Zeke out there for that final play, and he was the only guy in the O-line. Remember that? He was like the only guy on the line. He just snapped it. And it was like the reverse of that. Everybody drops back. There were O-linemen with nobody to block. Yeah. They were like looking around like there's nobody coming for me, and so you drop everybody into coverage. A great play and some confusion there at the end of the game.
Well, and you hear from Kyle Shanahan, he thought about calling a timeout, but he saw that the Bears were not organized, and so he didn't call a timeout. He trusted his defense, and guys made calls on the field to drop back into coverage and play it where he wanted the quick throw over the middle. There's 2 extra defenders right there in the middle where there's no lane to throw the ball. So it was fantastic football last week on both sides. Offensively, it was fun to watch. Big plays for the Bears, big plays for the 49ers. And this is a 49ers team that believes. And all the fans here believe it's going to be a great crowd. This is going to be, I think the anticipation for this game is probably the biggest, to your point, in Levi Stadium history.
Tracy, I think it's huge that they've won games in so many different ways at so many different points. Like, it's a totally different Niner team than Seattle saw week 1. The Niners win that game with a drive by Brock at the end after not playing great, throwing 2 interceptions, but the huge Tonjes touchdown to win it after a big bomb to Ricky up the left sideline in a basket over his shoulder. A couple of huge catches for Ricky in the first few weeks, and that was the first. And then the big Bosa play that ends at the trifecta, the sack, fumble, and then recovery for the Niner victory. But for me, that's the battle-tested nature of this team, is they've won so many different ways, and they've really won down to the wire. Tim was saying it to me, our producer here on the way in, saying they've won some close games where they had to make plays at the end. Week 1 against Seattle, even week 2 against New Orleans, they needed some plays at the end and some big defense from Bryce Huff to come away with a win. Week 3, they win with a walk-off field goal in a gritty game against Arizona. They had to beat the Rams on the final play of that game in overtime. They had to beat the Bears on the final play defensively back against the wall. They've won in different ways, and they've done it down the stretch. We've talked about how they don't make mistakes. They're also a team that closes.
And I would make the argument last week that the biggest play was the one right before the last play of the game, the hook and ladder, keeping them out of the end zone, because also that play took a lot of time off the clock and is why the Bears only had 4 seconds left at the end. So I would say they made 3 really big stops, and if they don't make that stop, the game is over. And if they don't get all that time off the clock, the Bears probably would have won. So I would say they're definitely battle tested. I think the defense knows that they can bend and bend as long as they don't break, and they are coming up with the big plays at the end. And you're right, they're winning in a lot of different ways, and that's what good teams do.
And we've got a quarterback in Brock Purdy who's playing awesome football. He's only the 6th quarterback in back-to-back weeks in NFL history, 5 touchdowns. He is seeing it. He's feeling it. He's throwing the ball where it needs to be. We've seen a throw last week where he rolls to the right hash and throws it back to the sideline 35 yards down the field to Ricky Pearsall. And he's making big plays on third downs. The Niners are the number 1 team in the NFL on third down conversions, over 50%. He is playing at a super high level, and you can see the coordination between Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy and how they're working together. It's super fun to watch. As a football fan, as a 49er fan, this is peak offensive football.
George Kittle said something funny this week about that. Just sorry to interrupt you, but just about that he says he wishes that Brock had a mic and that he could hear it, because it's a lot of Kyle yelling, "Brock, do you hear me? Brock, do you hear me? Brock, did you see where he's at?" And Brock doing a thumbs up to him. And George said it just would be really great if Brock had a mic and we could listen in on that. And I think that kind of goes to what you're saying, though, that he can, "Brock, do you hear me, Brock?" And there's just a thumbs up, and he's got it. The third down thing is interesting because Seattle's 3rd in the league in stopping third down. So it's going to be fun tonight.
Something's got to give today. 2 teams on 6-game win streaks. I mean, I guess technically they could tie, but that doesn't help the 49ers. They've got to win this game to get the number 1 seed. A tie is Seattle is the number 1 again. They'd still be up a half game on the Niners. And the road to the Super Bowl and a championship changes dramatically with a loss. I mean, it's not just that you wouldn't get the number 1 seed. It's that then you're playing again next week, of course. But then it's also that the Super Bowl goes through Seattle. And that's a tough thing to ask, is to go up there and win a second time this year. You'd love if you had to play them a third time that it happens here at Levi Stadium. Let's get you more on Brock Purdy and the opposing quarterback, our old friend Sam Darnold. Time for the QB comparison, sponsored by Friedman's Appliance, proudly serving all of Northern California with a wide selection of luxury appliances. Visit them in Pleasant Hill to see the Friedman's difference, and by Dolce Vita Tequila pure and simple. 6 straight wins for Brock since his return. Last week, 24-33, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He's got 2 picks in the last 2 weeks, but 10 total touchdowns. And you had national media guys throwing around, I would say, names like Josh Allen in comparison to Brock Purdy this past week. I mean, what he's doing with his legs, again, nothing, this isn't a comparison to Mac, but the thought that they were similar quarterbacks changes, in my mind, completely when you see Brock's ability to move outside the pocket and continue to create with accuracy.
What Brock had lacked, and we touched about it on the postgame show, is highlight plays. He does everything so well, but it doesn't resonate. Like, he makes it look easy.
It's not Mahomes-like, right?
Exactly.
It's different,
that 4th down conversion, Ricky Pearsall, he throws that ball right on the money. And it has to be there. And he puts it on time, on the money. There's not many quarterbacks who can do that. And Brock Purdy doesn't get the recognition because of a lack of highlight plays. He delivered probably the highlight play of his career last week by scrambling around, making 2 guys miss, scrambling up, and then delivering a touchdown to Juszczyk. Like, there's not many quarterbacks in the league that can make that play. So he's way more athletic than he gets credit for, but he's also doing it first and second down. And those are the things that makes a great offense, not just a good offense, but getting the ball on 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 10. Like, he makes the right decisions. He keeps the offense on track, and he is playing the best football of his entire career right now.
The funny thing about that touchdown, too, is he was eluding defenders. It almost was like they were flies. Like, shoot, if you watch it again, he's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to get out. Just get out of my way. Get out of my way. I need to move. And that just shows the confidence and comfort that he has. He's called himself sneaky athletic. I'm just going to go ahead and call him athletic.
Sam Darnold on the other side of things, 67.2% completion. He does have 25 touchdowns, but 14 picks. He's been sacked 25 times, 3rd most interceptions in the league behind 2 guys that aren't great names, and Geno Smith having a rough year in Tua in Miami. So that's where Sam Darnold is. For me, the bigger question is about how he responds to this opportunity tonight, because he effectively had the exact same chance last year in Minnesota, Week 18, Sunday Night Football. Winner gets the number 1 seed against the Lions, and the Lions kind of put down a blueprint on how you beat Sam Darnold. They did it easily in that game, and then he gets run out of the playoffs as well.
Part of it is Darnold has played all the games. Last week, 13 quarterbacks started in the NFL that did not start week 1.
It's crazy.
Like, that's a lot of turnovers.
That's
so the fact that he's been consistent and played every game leads to those interception numbers, but he will also make mistakes. He's still, call him a young quarterback. He's young in age. He came into the NFL at 21 years old.
He was the youngest player in the league, I think, for 2 years.
Yeah.
Even after his 2nd season, I think he started his sophomore year in the league, is still the youngest player in the NFL.
At 22.
Yeah.
And so his development has been fun to watch. I think his time here in San Francisco, and everybody agrees that it helped his career and elevate him. He's back-to-back 13-win seasons. There's very few quarterbacks in the NFL, I think 6 in NFL history, that have won back-to-back 13 games. And I think he's the only guy to do it with different teams.
Yeah,
he is.
He is.
So he's a winner. And you trust him with your offense. You're going to reap the benefits of that. And he's played at high level the last 2 seasons. I think he's established himself as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, because he does some of the things that Brock Purdy does. And he learned in that system, and here's what I'm asked to do, and here's what I can do at high level. And he's with a offensive coordinator who can dial it up for him.
Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. We got a 5 o'clock kickoff for Week 18 with the number 1 seed on the line. It all comes down to this. I mean, you're not done if you lose this game, but this is, I think, because of the implications, certainly the biggest regular season game in Levi Stadium history, maybe the biggest regular season game ever under Kyle Shanahan. The fortunes change dramatically if you lose this game as to your path for the Super Bowl 60 right here at Levi Stadium. More to come from Levi Stadium. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler, Week 18, the Niners and the Seahawks, and it's only here on the Sports Leader. Back here from Levi Stadium, ahead of Week 18, a 5 o'clock kickoff for the number 1 seed between the Niners and the Seahawks. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. We'll catch up with Matt Mayoko, our 49er insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, at 2:30 here. In terms of how the Niners find a win in this game, is this game more about the Niner offense or the Niner defense, you think, against a Seattle offense that is electric, may have the offensive player of the year in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's having the best season of any wide receiver? We know the defense struggled against a top offense last week in the Bears, but got the stop when they needed to at the end of the game. It feels to me, and I said it at the end of the game last week, that I think Kyle knows the offense has to score just about every time they touch the ball. So is this more about the offense, or is it about the defense finding one stop in there, Tracy?
That is a very good question. I think it's the defense finding one stop in there. I really do, because you mentioned earlier that Seattle has a top defense and a top offense, and the 49ers have a top offense and they do not have a top defense, but they have a defense that can make the play when needed. And it's been like that all season. I mean, it was like
True.
that even before the injuries to Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Mykel Williams, who, as you mentioned, we never
mentioned him, but he was huge in the run game, and he was starting to develop a bit. Yeah,
and it was real, and he was very important. So, and now he gets set back a year, but that's a different conversation. So I think it is really about the 49ers defense. The 49ers know what the offense can do. They do need to score pretty much every time they touch the ball, but can the defense do just enough? And that's really all they have to do, just enough.
Todd, what do you think?
This is a total cop-out. It's all three. Like, the 49ers offense has to continue playing at a high level, because I think we know what to expect from the Seahawks offense, and they're really good on both run game and pass game. They can rip off big pass plays down the field. Jackson Smith-Njigba has been nearly unstoppable, and we saw it last week where the Bears were able to take advantage down the field. So the 49ers defense, I think, is vulnerable, both run and pass. The offense has to play well. Can we get a few big plays from the special teams? Seattle special teams have been good. They have a great kicker, but if it has to be a total team effort from the 49ers today in order to win, because Seattle's that good. I mean, they have the most wins. They're the number 1 seed going into this. They have more wins than the 49ers. So can the 49ers play a complete game? It has to be a couple stops from the defense, yes, and maybe a big play. We've seen some big plays from the 49er defense when needed, but I'm not expecting a huge game from them. I think the 49ers offense has to play like it's played the last 3 weeks, averaging over 40 points, but the special teams might be the difference in today.
I mean, you are who you are at this point, and that's why I believe in the offense. And to your point about being a complete game for the defense, Seattle has done this in the last, I think, 5 times or 4 times in the last 6 weeks in their win streaks. They've had really slow starts to the game offensively. Against Atlanta, they were tied, I think it was 3-3 most of the first half, 6-6, and then they blew the doors off Atlanta in the second half. Took a come from behind against the Colts in the final drive of their offense that day to get a field goal. They did it last week against Carolina, sort of a rough first half, and then they exploded. It happened against the Saints with them also. So
and the Rams.
And the Rams, by the way, also. They exploded in the second half. So they've done this a bunch where just because you have your foot on the gas at halftime does not mean that they're not capable of coming back and getting back in it. They're 3rd in the league in second half points. They're 2nd in the league in total points per game. And the Niners are top 10 in both categories. But this is a team that is never out of it, even down 3 scores in the second half.
And I'm glad Todd brought up special teams, because that very well could be the difference. And it's an area in the past where we would look at a game and be like, well, hopefully there won't be a major special teams blunder. But they could end up winning the game for San Francisco. I mean, this could very well come down to a last-second field goal.
Well, and by the way, Seattle doesn't win the game against the Rams unless their special teams goes off. I mean, Rashid Shaheed had that big kick. I don't know what his status is for today. He got concussed last week and left the game. So we'll check on his status. But you're right. I mean, it's got to be, if the defense is going to be your Achilles heel here, everything else has to be just about perfect.
Well, and we talked about a fast start last week for the 49ers. They could not have gotten off to a slower start with a pick 6 on the first play.
Yeah.
But bounce back. And so I think what we can expect from the 49ers offense is consistent excellence. That's what we've seen the last 3 weeks. They're playing at a super high level. They're fairly healthy. Again, we'll find out about Trent Williams, but I think that part I'm not concerned about. It's, can the defense come up with a couple big plays? It doesn't have to be a pick 6 or sacks necessarily. It's get them off schedule, force some punts, and then can the special teams come up with a couple big plays and change field position at the very least.
Now that we're here on Saturday, do you guys feel any different about the short week? I know Kyle was pretty vocal about not liking that it went down this way. I mean, I know Week 18 just kind of goes the way it goes, where had the Browns not won last week, damn good chance the Niners are playing Sunday Night Football. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do you feel like they got kind of hosed on this? Does any of that matter at this point? Seattle has to come cross country from Carolina They have to go to Seattle, and then they've got to come down here on a Saturday. They're playing a short week also. Just your thoughts on that.
And I think they're even in that way. I really do, because Seattle, as you said, had to fly from Carolina. They have to fly here. It's not a long flight. So I think they're even. It's not ideal. I don't think it's ideal for either team. It was probably unfair to both teams for the biggest game of the season and the biggest game of the weekend, but it is what it is. And I think for them, it's annoying. And then they got to move on because they got to prepare for the game.
Well, that's the thing is if you win the game, then you get a bye. If you lose the game, you just hope you're playing Sunday next week.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of what you're praying for.
I think it works more against the Seahawks. That cross-country flight and then flying down here takes away a day of preparation that the 49ers had. They're able to stay here and be prepared. I think it works in the 49ers' favor. But if Trent Williams could play tomorrow, I think that's the big question.
Sure, yeah. Trent, outside looking in, they're saying Kittle's going to go, and it looks like Ricky Pearsall will be active today as well. Yeah, I guess the question in general is who got screwed worst? San Francisco having back-to-back short weeks, Seattle who had to come cross-country, or Tim who because of the Saturday night game, had to cancel his house of prime rib reservation tonight.
Tim, for sure.
Yeah, Tim got hosed the worst.
Coming off a birthday weekend.
Where were you going, Tim? What are you going? Henry VIII? You get that bone in there? Yeah, that's what Tim was going.
And it was his birthday on Sunday.
And it was his birthday. Oh, poor
Not
Tim.
cool.
Tough start to 2026. Maybe we'll get another big win for him. Let's get you Who's Hot, sponsored by Valley Heating, Cooling, Electrical, and Solar, locally and family owned for 62 years, and by Rayleigh's and Nob Hill. Save more on the flavors you love and find better deals for your budget at Rayleigh's and Nob Hill. Well, the obvious answer would be Brock Purdy, right?
Yes.
10 touchdowns, 2 picks in the last 2 games. He's doing it with his legs. They're running that like read option play down in the red zone, which has been an element of the red zone success this year that wasn't really there last year or in the first part of this season. Juwan Jennings has been red hot. All that guy does is catch touchdowns. And I'm just going to generally say the tight end room, because George Kittle's been fantastic, but you don't want to say you didn't miss him last week, but you got the production you would expect from George Kittle from Jake Tonjes, which is pretty incredible. So the offense red hot. I want to nod to the offensive line as well, who's been really, really good, and they'll need to be today against a defense that's posting 44 sacks on the year, and you may not have Trent Williams, likely will not have.
And they elevated Brandon Parker from the activated from the practice squad. So I would say the chances of Trent Williams are pretty slim. And I would say, I know you said the offensive line, I'm going to give it to Austin Pleasance on his own. I think he came in there having not played a game all season. We talked last week, I actually asked Kyle about it this week, and with Trent missing Wednesdays every week, he has a vet day. Austin Pleasance has had quite a few first-team reps, which was helpful, but had never played an entire game. He told Christian he'd never played an entire game in his professional career, and I thought he really was fantastic. So I'm going to give him a nod, because chances are the hottest player of the week every day.
No.
We haven't talked about Christian McCaffrey yet. Coming off a 140-yard game, touchdown.
Best game of the year, maybe.
His longest run of the season. He is playing as well as he's played all season, and the offensive line is doing a much better job at the point of attack. The last couple weeks, he's able to make his first cut or get his first contact 2 or 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. That is a huge change from the previous 2 months of the season where he's having to make his first cut in the backfield. I think if they can do a good job at the point of attack and let him get going, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he's rolling right now. Let's keep it up.
Live from Levi Stadium, Week 18 is coming your way right here on the Sports Leader. A 5 o'clock kick, maybe the biggest game, certainly regular season game ever played at Levi Stadium, the Niners and the Seahawks. And nice to get a little Seahawks rivalry in here after so many years of having to deal with the Rams, and you still may have to in the postseason, but nice to have this rivalry renewed under Kyle Shanahan. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll catch up with our guy Matt Mayoko, 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. How does he see this one going down? How hard is it to beat a division opponent twice in 1 year? And does it matter since they last played them 16 weeks ago or 17 weeks ago, whatever it was back in week 1? More to come from Levi Stadium, Niners in Seattle on the Sports Leader.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. sound right, boys. Sound right, boys.
Live from Levi Stadium, Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler getting ready for the Niners and the Seahawks Week 18. Always a juicy-looking game at the end of the season, and you hope you're playing for something or that you've got something locked up, and they'll be playing for the number one seed, both of these teams. Joining us now on the UMA guest line, Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. Matt, how you doing, man? As big of a game as we could have asked for.
I think so. Yeah, you never know what twists and turns the season's going to take, and just 17 short weeks ago, seeing these teams play a 17-13 game and projecting out to Week 18, it's kind of hard to figure that this would have the kind of implications that it's going to have. But here we are, and couldn't get any more exciting than this.
I was asking Todd and Tracy this, and I'm interested in your opinion. Is this game more, you think, based on what we've seen? And I said, you are who you are at this point in the year, and what we saw against the Bears last week. Is this game more about the Niner offense going toe for toe every drive, or is it about the defense trying to work in a stop where they can find one?
Boy, I mean, half a dozen of one and 6 of the other. They go. I mean, the 49ers offense, in a sense, only has to be as good as their defense allows it to be, and I guess you could go vice versa on that. I mean, they work in tandem. I think the 49ers have a little bit more wiggle room on defense just because of how good the offense is playing. When you think of the seasons where the 49ers have made deep postseason runs, it's been both sides of the ball working kind of equally and in tandem. And I'm not sure the 49ers defense is capable of that this season. Now, when you look at the NFC, Seattle's offense is struggling, and you look at some of the teams around, a potential matchup next week against the Eagles. I mean, their offense isn't as great as it was last year for sure. So the defense is going to have to make big stops like it did against the Bears on Sunday night. But the only reason the 49ers defense was in a situation where they could make big stops late, and they only needed 2, keep them out of the end zone once and have them settle for a field goal, and then keep them out of the end zone period the second time. The only reason they were able to do that and get away with it and get the victory was because how well the offense was playing. So it's, I think there is pressure on the 49ers offense to score darn near every time they touch the ball. And the defense, I think the expectations right now are kind of low as far as what the defense is capable of. But if they can generate a takeaway, if they can force a couple of punts, if they can have Seattle settle for field goals and not touchdowns, then that puts the offense in a really good spot to go ahead and finish the job and get the victory.
In terms of the magnitude of this game, it almost feels like if they win this game, this is a long playoff run. If they lose this game, a much higher likelihood they lose next week. I just know a lot of people talking about, not in the building, but this game is everything because it will mean everything for the playoffs. But is it important to remind everybody they're still in the playoffs? They're still going to play next week no matter what happens tonight.
Yeah, I don't think any scenario makes it easy on the 49ers. I would just say that if they win this game, or let's put it this way, if they lose the game, it just becomes so difficult. Yeah, I think it'd be difficult on any team. I mean, Rams included, to win 3 playoff games on the road. I mean, think about what the 49ers path would be. If they win this game tonight, they get a week off. You know, Trent Williams back in a couple of weeks. Everybody's rested. Potentially one win away from getting Fred Warner back, and they wouldn't have to leave Levi Stadium at all. If they lose this game, in order to get to Levi Stadium for Super Bowl 60, they'd have to more than likely go on the road and beat the Eagles, maybe go on the road and beat the Bears, and go on the road and beat Seattle. And that's tough. And, maybe at one of those scenarios, go on the road and beat Seattle or beat the Rams on the road, because the Rams more than likely would be the 5 seed. So the only way the 49ers would be able to host any game at that point as the 6th seed would be if the Packers win a couple of games and upset a couple of teams on the road. And now they make it to the NFC Championship game. So it's not impossible for the 49ers to take the long way, but it does make it significantly more unlikely for them to pull that off. I just think it's difficult. Again, not impossible. They could do it, but the easier path, or I should say the less difficult path, would be you're only playing home games and you only have to win 2 to get to the Super Bowl instead of 3.
Matt, we've talked about Brock Purdy and his excellence the last few weeks, and Christian McCaffrey having a great game last week. But the offensive line has really played well, even without Trent Williams for most of the game last week. What have you seen from them that's been maybe a difference maker that we hadn't seen early in the season, where they weren't ripping off big runs and allowing Brock maybe to go through his progression? The offensive line seems to be playing much, much better.
Yeah, I do think that just the continuity of these guys playing together, they had the instability at left guard through most of the season. Started off Barch, then it was Colby, and then it was Barch and Burford, and now it's just been Burford for a while. So I think working together, that helps. I think that a reflection on the offensive line also is how well the wide receivers are blocking and creating those holes. Now, we talk about the importance of home field advantage. I think it means more to the 49ers offensive line than any other position group for them to be playing home games. I really think when you're talking about probably offensive lines in general, but I would say specifically with this 49ers offensive line, I think the difference between them playing at Levi Stadium for the duration or them going on the road is when they're at home, when they're at Levi Stadium and they can hear cadence and they're playing in front of their home fans who should be quiet when they approach the line of scrimmage. I think the difference is the 49ers offensive line goes from being one of the best offensive lines in football when they're playing at home to, if they have to go on the road, now they're kind of an ordinary offensive line just because of the inherent advantages that the defensive line that they're facing has. I mean, a loud crowd, they're working on silent count, they're looking at the football, the defensive line gets just a tick of a head start on them. I think that right there is the biggest advantage for the 49ers. If they can secure home field advantage, is it makes their offensive line so much better playing at Levi Stadium as opposed to playing on the road.
Matt, there's no way you could know this for sure, but do you feel like...
No, there is, Tracy. Don't ever underestimate me.
I forgot who I was dealing with, so now no pressure, but whatever you say will be true. Should they win this evening with everything they've gone through and have the 1 seed, do you think Kyle Shanahan is far and away the coach of the year?
Well, far and away, probably not. But coach of the year, I think so. I think the momentum has really shifted. And so much of it is recency bias, and so much of it is the last thing people see. And I think the fact that the 49ers have now been on prime time national television the past 3 weeks. If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said no. It would be Vrabel. It would be Ben Johnson. It'd be Liam Cohen. Am I forgetting somebody? I think
no,
those are the three.
That's probably it.
Yeah, that's probably it. But I think now that now there's the narrative that's out there and people who are tuning in, and I think for that award there are 32 voters, basically AP voters from around the NFL, maybe a couple other at-large voters. But I think that everybody was watching Phillip Rivers on that Monday night, so now they hear the story. Oh, that's right. They did lose Bosa week 3. They did lose Warner week 6. Oh, that's right. Purdy did miss 8 games. And I think you hear that, and then the next week, everybody's watching Sunday Night Football. Everybody's going to be watching tonight. I do believe, and I did not feel this way 3 weeks ago. I think that he was always worthy. I just didn't think that the national perception would be to hold him in that regard, because I think generally speaking, Coach of the Year is a team that wasn't expected to do anything when the season began to now, oh my gosh, look at this team. It's a surprise playoff team. Well, I think a lot of people had the 49ers being a playoff team when the season started, but the journey of how they got there, I think, makes him probably the best candidate of the guys I mentioned.
Matt, before we let you go, just because you mentioned him in passing, Fred Warner, and there was a report, I think Matt Barrows had it, and maybe Tim Kawakami, that apparently Fred Warner's been telling his buddies and guys in the locker room that he could potentially return for the divisional round. What are you hearing on an even earlier return for Fred Warner?
That doesn't surprise me that he's telling people that. I think just inside the organization, fairly recently, they very much have opened the door for the NFC Championship game. He's been kind of defying the markers all along. That would be something. Again, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I think he's going to be there if the 49ers make it to the Super Bowl. Then about a week later, you start hearing some things and how good he's coming along, and you go, geez, I think it's going to be an NFC Championship game if they can make it that far. So I think that's pushing it. I think divisional round is pushing it, but Fred's going to put pressure on the coaching staff, the medical staff, the front office. He's going to put pressure on a lot of people to get out there and defy the odds. From what I understand, there isn't a big concern about him, re-injuring or exacerbating the issue with the fracture. There's a steel plate in there, but the question is, the ligaments, and does he have the range of motion, the strength? If he's getting out there a little early, is he putting himself in harm's way just because that leg, that foot doesn't have, that ankle doesn't have the strength? But I think that's unrealistic, divisional round. But with him, you never know.
Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. Make sure you're watching him, reading him, listening to him, and he'll be all part of the NBC Sports 49er coverage. Matt, enjoy the game, the biggest in Levi Stadium history in the regular season. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you guys are going to stay dry, right?
It does sort of look that way. Maybe some showers, I guess, like intermittently around 5 and 7, but nothing heavy, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Enjoy it. Should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it, and I know you guys are too.
Exciting. Matt, have a great time. Enjoy the game, man.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Good deal there. Just real quick here before we get to hear from 49ers General Manager John Lynch. It's time for the 49ers Health Report, sponsored by your California Ford dealers. Visit buyfordnow.com to find your next truck or SUV. So likely Trent Williams out. And Tracy, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that normally when a 49ers player doesn't practice in the week due to injury, he doesn't more often than not, he doesn't play.
Correct.
And so Trent, I think they said it's outside chance they're going to get him out there and see before, but it's unlikely he's going to play. And you pointed out earlier, they've elevated Brandon Parker from the practice squad to tackle, so that would indicate that they need some depth there, and Trent is going to be out for this one. Ricky Pearsall likely to play. George Kittle is going to play today. You just heard the update there on Fred Warner and what he's been saying. Also, Eric Kendricks elevated again today from the practice squad. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, you'll hear from 49ers general manager John Lynch, who was on the KNBR morning show earlier this week. We'll do it next. It's a 5 o'clock kick. Niners and the Seahawks right here on the Sports Leader. Back here from Levi Stadium, Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. Week 18 is here, and it's as big of a game as we could have asked for. The Niners and the Seahawks, some nerves, some anxiety, some excitement for a huge tilt that could define the 49ers season and dictate their road to Super Bowl 60. It's time now for the Building the Game Plan, sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com and by River Islands. Come home to River Islands in Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. Start your tour today at riverislands.com. It was for me. John Lynch, 49ers general manager and president of football, joins the KNBR morning show each and every week. And his conversation this week started with him addressing tonight's game of the year. Here you go.
Yeah, always a lot made about schedule makers and all that goes into it, but I have to say they got it right. Playing the first game, playing the last game, Niners, Seahawks, and the fact we get to do it at home in front of our crowd, it's just awesome. The energy the other night in that stadium against the Bears, right to the very end, it was extremely memorable. And this is when you're playing meaningful football this type of year, when you get to do it at home for games that have great implications moving forward. It's a really cool deal, and I think every now and then you got to stop and savor those moments, and you didn't have much time to do that because it's onward. We got the quick turnaround, and hey, those are the cards we were dealt, and so you make the best of it, and that's exactly what we're doing, and we're excited about playing Saturday night against a really good football team in front of our home crowd.
Well, John, is going back to last Sunday night, the thrilling victory over the Chicago Bears. You just said it. You got to make the best out of it. Your team has been resilient all season long, battling through injuries. What did it mean to you to have Austin Pleasance and Jake Tonjes step up for Trent and George in their absences?
Oh, my Lord. I think it's just very indicative of what this season's been all about. You just used the word resilient. I think that's probably, if anyone asked me to describe this year's team, that's exactly what it is. And it really has been, oftentimes there's adages that people refer to, there's cliches, next man up. Well, this year we've seen that come to fruition. And, for Austin Pleasance, first play of the game, Trent Williams, we have a interception that ends up getting returned for a touchdown. Trent, it's always my favorite thing because that's when you really get to see his athleticism. You never like an interception, but Trent's competitiveness comes out. Nowadays we have these GPS machines. I think Trent on that particular play hit 17.5 miles per hour. There's receivers that don't run that in our league. Unfortunately, it grabbed his hamstring. For Austin Pleasance to come and play the way that he did, that had as much to do with our victory as anything. And Tonjes, made 7 catches, a number of them on third down, and just showed that no moment's too big for him. And we've been having contributions like that all season long, and we'll need to continue to have those because you never know what's going to happen. But I think, it probably helps the next guy when you've seen other guys be able to do it. And one thing I'll say about Austin Pleasance, I'm an early morning guy. That's kind of my deal. I'm in here early. I've gotten into the cold plunge like a lot of guys have, and I go down there and cold plunge. Austin Pleasance is the first guy in this building of all the players each and every day. And so I think it's not just some mystery as to why he was able to go out and execute. I think the other thing is, Trent takes vet days every Wednesday. That's something we do for certain players that are a little bit older, and we feel like need that. And so every Wednesday, Austin has been able to take those starter reps, and I think that comes in handy as well. So those two things probably helped us.
John, what's been unique about this year and your partnership with Kyle Shanahan compared to any of the previous 8? We've seen everything from NFC championships to injuries and missed playoffs, but you use the word resilient, and I think that's a great way to describe it. How do you see it from your perspective in the front office and your partnership here with Kyle?
It's been awesome. We've had a lot go on in our 9 years here. It always seems to be eventful. But I think the biggest thing is we've always had each other's backs. I feel blessed every day to be working with him. We happen to really enjoy each other, and so that makes coming to work easier. I can't say enough about the job he's done leading this team. I think I always sit back and marvel, and I probably didn't recognize enough as a player. I was in those rooms all the time watching the head coach, but you see, the head coach talks to his team each and every day. He talks to the media each and every day, the enormity of that job. And so, the team really takes on the personality of their head coach. And I think Kyle he hasn't blinked all year. And that's from the off season where we had a lot of transition and turnover on our roster. Something, we all agreed on and decided that this was what we needed to do as an organization. Not easy to do, but Kyle never blinked, and he said, all right, this is what we're going to have. We're going to embrace it. We're going to be excited about it, and we're going to get after it. And then, unfortunately, we went into a season where from the very start we didn't have George Kittle in the opener. We had battled some injuries in training camp. We come out of the first game. Brock had played a marvelous game against the Seahawks, and we find out he's got a turf toe injury. And so it started on that game, and then we've been through it. But I think when the guy who's up in front of the team every day is showing a never blink mentality, the players tend not to blink. And when he shows confidence in players and our team's ability, and the way he does that, he's just extremely real. He'll never fib to our team. He likes doing things. You say actions speak louder than words. Kyle likes showing guys, not telling them. He likes showing them why we're going to do certain things and why he has concerns. And I just think he's been masterful this year leading our team. And I think, we're in this position in large part because of that leadership.
Talking to John Lynch on the UMA guest line, the playoffs are different from the regular season, obviously, but do you feel these last two games, the regular season against teams you could see in the playoffs on prime time, are a good test before you actually do the real thing?
Yeah, I do. It's people always talk about, hey, this team is battle tested. I think in our division alone this year, a lot of really good football being played in our division this year. You see the records of three of the teams, and it's been a tough NFC West, and so I think we're certainly battle tested. We've played in every situation. We've gone east. We've stayed at home. We've turned over on short weeks. It's not like we haven't done this before. We've won on Thursday nights, and so we've seen just about every scenario. Again, I speak to the energy that we had in that stadium the other night. Somebody had told me before the game, hey, don't be surprised if there's a lot of Bears presence, that maybe 25%. I certainly didn't feel that. I felt the faithful loud and clear. And, one thing I'll say to the fans, that really matters in crucial situations like that last drive. Every second matters, and I think the inability to communicate all the time, that makes the clock tick, tick, tick. And so ultimately those things matter, and so bring that same juice and energy, and we'll try to give you reason to have that energy, and there's plenty of reason because we're playing for a lot in terms of the NFC West, the number one seed, and there's a lot at stake. We do have a great deal of respect for the Seattle team. They've earned that. They're a really good football team.
Just one more for you, John. I know you got to run to a meeting. It feels like an entirely different season from the last time you guys played the Seahawks in Week 1. Obviously, there's a lot of football to be played, and the playoffs are always the goal. But when you look back on this season from the offseason of the roster turnover, having way more rookies play on defense and all the injuries, has this group in a way exceeded even your expectations?
I can't say enough about this group. Whether exceeded, I've always had a lot of faith in this group, and it's been an exciting year to add all this youth to our team. I think was really fun to mix it with a core group of really special players. It was really exciting. I think Derek, where I'd say probably exceeded is with everything that has transpired throughout the course of the year, all the injuries we've had to endure. Couldn't be more proud and happy for our guys and their resolve to just keep going and not to blink. And when you do that, you find a way. And I think more than ever, 23, I just felt like we were pretty dang good. We were hard to mess with, and I think people knew that. We knew it. This year you don't go into every game saying we're going to dominate this team, but we're finding a way to win. And I think that's pretty fun to take that ride. And I think what happens in a season like that, the confidence grows and it grows and it grows. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're an extremely confident team. I keep saying it because it's not just lip service. The Seattle team's a very good team. Mike McDonald's an excellent coach. They make you earn everything that you get. John Schneider, my counterpart, I think he's as good as it gets. I've just watched him build and rebuild that team up in Seattle. so many different times with Pete Carroll, with a new coach, and man, the personnel, they just keep coming at you with excellent football players. They're well constructed. They play the right way. It's going to be a fun battle for a lot at stake. It's so cool that we get to do it in Levi's, and going to be a tremendous scene out there come Saturday night.
No question about it. John, we know you got to get to it on the short week, so we really, really appreciate your time. And in the words of your third-round draft pick, as you experienced firsthand, let's do it, Coach. Saturday,
do it.
5 o'clock, let's do it. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Live from Levi's Stadium, Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler getting you ready for the Niners and the Seahawks. Week 18, the number one seed is on the line, and joining us here in studio, it's our guy Larry Krueger. What up, Krug? How you doing, bro?
What's going on? Game day. Feeling good. Feeling very, very good.
I'm excited about this one, man. What's your temperature here? I know sometimes you get a little concerned, a little worried. Like, where are you now? How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, I do feel like the Seattle Seahawks are definitely the better team. They're number 2 in points scored. They're number 2 in points allowed. This is week 18. Stats mean everything at the end of the year. And they're the better team. So 49ers are going to have to be better. You know, the old coach, you say, the way you play, the day you play, it's all that kind of stuff. But it is true. And who's going to take better care of the football? Who's going to play more efficient football? I'll take Brock Purdy over Sam Darnold if they played 10 times, I'll take Brock Purdy 8, 9 times, for sure. So we'll see. I think the 49ers are playing really, really well. I think they're going to do a really good job against the run. But I also can easily envision Sam Darnold ripping, multiple 25-yard throws to JSN where the coverage is like woefully, not enough. So I think this game's going to, there's going to be some give and take. I think there's going to be rain in the second half. Seattle's a start slow kind of a team. I think the 49ers, big night for Kittle, big night for Tonjes. Seattle struggles to defend the tight end. I think the Niners have two of the best going right now catching the ball.
Evaluate Sam Darnold. We talked about back-to-back 13-win seasons. What does he do well? I mean, he's a little bit like Brock Purdy, and he throws accurately, and he makes the right decisions, and he runs the offense. But how good is he? Like, evaluate his last 2 seasons, which they've been very productive seasons.
Well, I mean, he's got what you're looking for as far as size, stature, arm strength. He's got the full package as far as a pocket passer. I mean, he really can make all the throws. He's got a very talented thrower for sure. Puts it in tight spots. You could have good coverage, and if he sticks it in there, he can complete. Sometimes he'll attempt some shots in tight windows because he knows he can squeeze it in there, and then he does. But I think sometimes he doesn't have a full account of the defenders. I think sometimes if there's late rotations, he doesn't account for it, and he's turned the ball over an awful lot. And to me, when he's not turning it over and you got a real strong run game, he can look like the best quarterback in the league. But I think he's the kind of guy that in big games is going to turn it over, and I expect him to turn it over tonight.
And I think that's going to be honestly the key for San Francisco. Can they force him into mistakes? Can they get any sort of pass rush, just a little, to force him into mistakes? Because you talked about who's going to take better care of the football, and that's what this is going to come down to. You have 2 offenses that can score a lot of points. You have 1 defense and significantly better. You've got special teams units that are playing well. Who will take care of the football? And that's the key. Can the defense make 1 or 2 big plays where he turns the ball over? That's the biggie to me.
And are you better than your stats or are you worse than your stats? I think this 49er defense, if you look at the more like the last 4 or 5 weeks, is actually better than their stats. And I think if you look at the Seattle team, they're like 3rd in the league in points off turnovers. So they kind of rely on turnovers to get these big, to get points. So I think they're second in points allowed is much more reflective of who they are as a football team than the second in points scored. If the 49ers can get into a 28, 30-point realm, and they've been scoring 40, if the Niners can score north of 28, I think they got a great chance.
Talking to Larry Krueger here, out of the Niners and the Seahawks, Week 18. Do they need an offensive explosion like they had last week to win? I don't think you're going to win this game the way you did Week 1, is my point.
No, because look how you finished it in Week 1. You finished it with Bosa, shutting everything down and forcing a turnover.
And JSN made that dicey at the end.
Right. And they didn't stop JSN necessarily in Week 1. It wasn't like, I think JSN's going to get his. I think it's really going to be about how well do the Niners defend Barner, the big tight end, in the red zone.
Go blue. Sorry.
That's going to be a big one because he's been great. He's got 6 touchdowns this year. He's been really, really good. I think that they're also going to have to show they can wrap up against K9 and Charbonnet. Those are second effort type runners. And then can Brock Purdy be more efficient offensively in the red zone than Sam Darnold and the Seahawks? And I think there's a very good chance that he can.
But the 49ers' red zone efficiency has been outstanding. Last week, 5 for 5 in touchdowns in the red zone. They're number 2 in the NFL. Also top 5 in red zone opportunities. The number 1 team in scoring is Philadelphia, but they're like 26th in the league in red zone opportunities. So this is a Niners team that when they drive down and get inside the red zone, they're scoring touchdowns. And we mentioned it last week. Kyle Shanahan is feeling it in the red zone. I've never seen so many wide open players inside the 10 on pass plays where he is dialing things up that just has the defense off balance. And he's getting guys running free. It's been awesome to watch. And then we saw it last week with Tonjes just wide open in the back of the end zone, and Purdy's able to find him.
Yeah, the Seattle defense, Niner offense chess match in this game is going to be riveting to watch because you've got McDonald, who's been probably as good as anybody at defending Brock Purdy. The way he did it on Christmas night a couple of years ago with the Ravens, I thought was genius. And then if you look at Seattle, Seattle's really high in the league in pressure rate, but they're really, really low as far as blitz rate. They don't blitz. They get it done with their front four, and they're really fast on the second level at linebacker. They got an undersized guy who can really run. And then they've got, Love. I think Love at safety is one of the best safeties going. Witherspoon's a big-time player, and now they've got this Eman Wari freak, and he is a freak because he's talking about 6'4", 220, 4.3 speed, and they play him at the nickel. So, I mean, to me, that chess match there is going to be where this game's won or lost.
Ask Matt Mayoko this, and I will ask you this as well. Should they win tonight, is Kyle Shanahan far and away the coach of the year?
Well, I can't go far and away because
Matt also wouldn't go far and away.
I can't go far and away just because, look what Vrabel has done. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has overcome odds this year, and I think this is Kyle's best year. So, and we know he's a great coach, so I think he deserves it this year. But, if you look, I thought the 49ers, if you said to me in the beginning of the year, what are the Niners going to do? I thought with this schedule, they should go 11-6, and they may go 13-4. So I think they're better than that. But for Vrabel, they won 3 games or 4 games last year, and they're 13-win team. So I'd probably say Vrabel. I do understand why Vrabel's going to get votes.
Last question before we let you go, or I'll throw it to Copes before. But I think that the pass rush we saw 2 weeks ago, they got home twice against Phillip Rivers, who as a quarterback is going to be 7 yards behind the center every time. Last week, no pass rush, no sacks. Really didn't get to Caleb Williams much. They forced him out of the pocket a couple times, but that's what Caleb Williams does. Is Darnold in between where you sort of know where he's going to be? They can maybe collapse the pocket. Like what is the defensive posture coming into this game? Where are they going to really force that front four to be 7 yards behind the center? Or do you have to be worried about Sam Darnold and his scrambling ability?
Well, I think Sam Darnold is a pocket passer who's only going to look to move to throw, and I think you always play him to pass, and you never really play him to run unless you got a short yardage situation. I think with Sam Darnold, he reads it better, I think, at this point than Caleb. He doesn't move as well as Caleb, though, so it might be kind of refreshing for the Niner D-line to have more of a stationary target. You have a pretty good idea of where Sam's going to be in the pocket. Rivers, I think there was just a lot of unknown there. You knew he was going to get rid of the ball, but he was so active in his cadence at the line of scrimmage. He was kind of directing traffic. So they're, I think, really different quarterbacks. I think you got to mix it up against Darnold. You can't give him the same look over and over again. You have to give him different looks, different coverages, mix it up, rotate into some things post snap, try to fool him into a couple turnovers.
Larry, we do it with you each and every week. Do a little Krueger with you. The player to bank on, sponsored by Casino Matrix. Just drop in for gaming, dining, sports. Please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER and by Pacific Service Credit Union. Earn a $400 cash bonus for opening an account and setting up direct deposit of $500 or more. Sign up at pacificservice.org/my400. Player to bank on for this one.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get cute about this. It's CMC. I mean, there's an intensity about him right now. He wants it. He's hungry for it. He's a great player who's healthy and hungry. I think he will not be denied tonight. He'll either have well over 150 yards rushing and receiving. I think he's going to have a big night.
All right, Krug, enjoy the game. We'll see you upstairs, man.
Sounds good.
Week 18 is upon us. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. We will go up to the broadcast booth and check in with Tim Ryan, who, by the way, will be on the call today with Greg Papa. Greg Papa returns today for Week 18. We'll go up to the broadcast booth in just a bit. Still also your 49er player spotlight. More to come. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler. It's the Niners and the Seahawks, and it's only here on the Sports Leader. Back here from Levi Stadium, Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler with you. Week 18, the Niners and the Seahawks. Seattle comes into this one holding the number 1 seed in the NFC playoff picture, 13-3. The Niners at 12-4. So we're under 2 hours now from kickoff. And by the way, a report, an update just from Matt Barrows, who was on the field. Matt Barrows of The Athletic was on the field just a little while ago. He said tackles Colton McKivitz, Austin Pleasance, and Brandon Parker are on the field stretching out. No sign of Trent Williams. We don't have the actives and inactives for about 13 minutes or so, but as expected, he was not going to be on the field seemingly for this one after going down with a hamstring. And, I mean, you think about the implications for the Niners if they win. Sure, the path to the Super Bowl is so much easier, being that you don't have to play next week. You're playing on back-to-back short weeks here. You get to play all these games at home, but also it gives you another week to try to get Trent Williams healthy.
Oh, 100%. And even the guys who have just been dealing with stuff, which is pretty much everyone on the team, they get an extra week and they don't have to take those flights. I mean, because they always talk about, well, we have to see how he does on the flight because we'll see how his body responds.
Right.
So it is huge. It is a huge, huge difference. It's so funny to think it's like they can be 1 or they can be 6, maybe 5, but it just feels like such a drop.
I mean, if you were going to rank the players for the Niners that you would like to have, I mean, you want all of them, of course, but if the guys who could potentially play in this, obviously Bosa and Warner and Michael Williams out, but in terms of the offense, like he's a top 3 offensive player. I mean, I want Brock out there, I want Kittle out there, I want McCaffrey out there, so I'd say top 4. And Trent Williams is right up there with those guys. So how much changes for the Niners without Trent Williams? They played really well offensively last week with Austin Pleasance. This is a better defensive line. They get to the quarterback at a better rate, a top 10 defense. Just your confidence in the O-line with Pleasance today instead of Trent.
It's a tougher ask than a week ago, but Pleasance, one of the things we pointed out last week, he's practiced every Wednesday because they give Trent Williams the day off
with
as
the ones
as a veteran. So he has gotten work with the ones every single week, and I think that showed. There wasn't a huge drop-off. It wasn't, in fact, I didn't notice it until somebody pointed it out that Trent Williams was hurt because the offense went right down and scored. So, yeah, you'd love to have maybe the best offensive tackle in football out there. I think the drop-off we saw wasn't noticeable until somebody pointed it out. So he's got to play at a high level. This is a much better defensive front with the Seahawks than it was the Bears. But I've got confidence. He's worked with the ones enough this season. It's not like he's a rookie or somebody who hasn't played a lot of football with this group. And we heard from Matt Mayoko, a lot of it is just the continuity, the guys working together up front, knowing the calls, knowing the snap counts. I mean, all of that is important and working together. He's gotten the reps throughout the season, and he got a ton last week. So hopefully he's able to step in and play at a high level.
But you guys were just talking, you and Krug, Todd, during the break about the Niners coverage with the linebackers. And last week they struggled. I mean, Caleb Williams had a really, really good game. Carved him up for a couple of long touchdowns, over 35 yards, marched downfield at the end of the game. This is, in my estimation, as talented of an offense. You've got a variety of guys in the backfield that can beat you between the 20s with Kenneth Walker, and then in the short red zone with Zach Charbonnet. He's been really good. How do you contain, if at all? Because they don't have a great number 2 to Seattle, but JSN's got over 1,700 receiving yards and over 115 catches through 16 games.
I almost think, as Krug said, JSN's going to get his. And you kind of almost have to accept that on some level. What can you do in the run game?
Yeah.
And how can you make sure that there isn't another option? How do you defend the wide receiver too? So that's a very tough task. JSN is just one of those players, kind of like a McCaffrey. You know, he's going to play well. He's going to do well. What can you do to contain him as much as possible? And what can you do with the playmakers around him to stop them?
Yeah, I think it starts with stopping the run game. If you can make Seattle a little bit more one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it a couple weeks ago, slowing down Jonathan Taylor, really stopping Jonathan Taylor, averaging 2 yards a carry that game against the Colts, forcing Phillip Rivers to beat you. I think if you force Sam Darnold to beat you, I think he can. He's shown it. He did it in the second half against the Rams. But taking away that portion of the Seattle offense makes it a little bit easier for both the pass rush and the secondary. All right, we know they're in second and long situations. We're going to have to step up and make some plays. And then you allow the pass rush maybe a little bit bigger edge as opposed to second and short. They're playing not on their heels, but a little bit. We can't rush the passer because we've got to maintain run leverage. That just makes everything easier. So slowing down that Seattle run game, which is really effective, I think that if I'm the defensive coordinator, that's where you have to start.
Do you anticipate I mean, because we've talked about this all year in terms of trying to generate pressure, and we haven't seen a lot of blitzing in the last 2 weeks. We saw a lot of it early on when they had the injuries to generate some of that. It just wasn't working all that well. They rushed for a lot last week. They did the same to Phillip Rivers, and the couple of times they didn't, he threw right at the blitz and was able to complete for some gains. So how do you attack Sam Darnold in this one? I mean, you create pressure up the middle on him. That's where he struggles. But because they have the weapon in JSN in the secondary, I think you've got to probably stay home and not risk having him hit a soft spot in some man coverage when you bring a blitz.
Yeah, I don't know if you can blitz as much because it puts so much more pressure on your secondary, and we've seen JSN all season beat one-on-one coverage or catch underneath and break tackles. I'd like to see, if you're going to bring pressure, maybe just bring 5 and leave 6 in the secondary where you can, but I agree. Bringing pressure up the middle, creating some type of collapse the pocket, and maybe it's just like that linebacker coming up or doing some twists and stunts up front where you can create some. We didn't see much in the way of forcing Caleb Williams off his spot. He was able to throw the ball down the field effectively because he had some time in the pocket. I think if you give Sam Darnold that, he can pick it apart. So I think you have to pick your spots, not create too much pressure on your secondary, but also Upton Stout being back, he was awesome against the Colts. Mm-hmm. If he can come in and make some big plays, I think he adds a little different dimension in that slot, but also allows Mustafa to come up and make some big plays. And we've seen him both run stopping and passing over the middle. I think if you can disrupt this Seattle offense and not keep them on track where they are second and short and they are moving the chains and they're getting off to a good start. I think you have to create some second and long situations early in the game and force them into passing situations. That's where Sam Darnold has proven to make some mistakes this season.
And Diamador Lenoir's got a little bit extra juice. He's got the juice with JSN. He wanted to shadow him. It does not sound like that's something that's going to happen. But also would say Lenoir has not played his best football this season. And this is a game where he needs to play a lot better football. And part of that is everything that's gone on around him. But I think the extra juice that he has here is going to be important too, because it's all about forcing Sam Darnold to mistakes. That's it. That is the difference here.
One of the things we saw last week that Chicago did really effectively was attack the perimeter. They threw a lot of flat routes that went for 8, 10, 12 yards and sometimes longer. So that's where if you do pressure, all of a sudden it's one-on-one on the outside instead of the corner and the linebackers coming, it's one-on-one. So I think the Niners have to not just create pressure, but also tackle effectively. And the first guy has to bring him down, because if they're able to run after the catch, that's where Seattle's the most dangerous.
Here's a quick note, by the way. It's always fun to get the incentive stuff at the end of the season to see who's playing for something. Sam Darnold's got a $1.5 million in incentives, or he has $1.5 million in incentives on the line tonight against the Niners. He needs 3 touchdown passes to collect $500,000 incentive. He needs 150 passing yards to get another $500K, and he needs to raise his current 99.2 passer rating to 100 to collect another $500K. So not to say that's in his mind while he's playing, but there's some juice here if Seattle has a big game and Darnold has a big game.
Having been a part of that at the end of the season,
you have, yeah.
He might hit some check downs at the end if the game's in hand or out of hand, but let's hope the 49er defense can keep them from reaching those incentives.
What do you anticipate is the makeup of this game, Tracy? Is this a foot race like last week? Because it's a much better defense in Seattle, but as many explosive weapons. Maybe not quite as many, but a totally capable offense when it comes to scoring. We pointed out top 3 in the league in second half points. They're number 2 overall in points per game.
I don't think it's a shootout. I don't think it's how it is last week. I think both teams will score, and they may be able to go toe-to-toe on that, but I don't think it's a shootout. I think this is one that is going to come down to the wire in a very different way, and it's going to show if the 49ers win, it'll be how we talked about winning in different ways. I think this one comes down to potentially a field goal at the end on either side, but I don't anticipate this being a game like last week.
That's What's on Deck, sponsored by TimberTech Decking and Railing, #1 in premium decking. Order free samples at timbertech.com. The Niners in Seattle for the #1 seed. Seattle 13-3. The Niners 12-4. The winner gets the #1 spot in the NFC playoff picture and home field advantage throughout. Also returning today, Greg Papa will be on the call today right here on The Sports Leader alongside Tim Ryan. We'll go up to the broadcast booth and check in with Tim Ryan, see what he thinks about this matchup. Second time they're seeing Seattle this year, but they're bookending the season with it. So a totally different looking team, I think, on both sides for the Niners and the Seahawks. We'll take a quick break. We'll get you the player spotlight, and then Tim Ryan joins us from Levi Stadium. The Niners and the Seahawks, 5 o'clock kick, only here on The Sports Leader. Live from Levi Stadium, Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler getting ready for Week 18. The Niners and the Seahawks will go up to the broadcast booth in just a few minutes and check in with Tim Ryan. But quickly, just to look around the NFL, and there's not a lot to look at today as it's Saturday. Niners play tonight. The one other game that's going on right now for the, I guess technically, the division crown for Carolina. If Carolina beats Tampa, they are the NFC South champions at 9-8. If Tampa wins this game against Carolina, Carolina is not eliminated. They'd be 8-9. Mm-hmm. The Buccaneers would be 8-9. And then if Atlanta beats the Saints tomorrow, there would be a three-way tie for 8-9. And then Carolina would then jump back up on top of the division based on a head-to-head record between those three teams. So Carolina could lose and still back into the playoffs at 8-9. It stands right now 13-7 in favor of the Bucs with 2.5 to play in the third quarter. This has been an ugly game, a rainy, ugly, sloppy game, some interceptions, two teams that I think anybody who's in a wild card spot would love to play. If you get an opportunity, if you have to go on the road, this is one of the teams you'd want to play. I didn't really have a pick on this game. The Buccaneers are kind of limping to the end of this one. What is interesting, and Todd mentioned this earlier, and I said this to you guys last week, if Carolina does in fact end up the division champion, the 49ers will have beaten every team in the playoffs in the NFC picture except for Philadelphia and Green Bay, and they didn't play them. But everybody else they will have faced and beaten head-to-head.
Yeah, the strength of schedule looks good at the prior. Like, the Bears game was almost circled as a win, preseason.
We were like, why is this Sunday Night Football?
Yeah,
we were like, it was perplexing, yeah.
But all of a sudden, things can change, as we saw with Tampa Bay when the Niners played them at that point in the season, and there's Fred Warner game. And
they were one of the best teams in football, we thought, at that point, Tampa.
And they had won some close games. Baker Mayfield was playing in he was in MVP discussion first half of the season. All of a sudden, they've fallen off. The NFC South, the fact that they will get to host a playoff game, a lot of people have a problem with that. I don't disagree. Might be a losing record, hosts a playoff game, but I would agree that whoever gets to play the NFC South gets a nice gift in the playoffs.
I would agree with that. It is interesting that they would host a playoff game and have such a bad record, but I guess that's the benefit of winning your division. And I don't know how you change that. I don't know if you really can change that.
I guess what I would do, and I've made this argument, I'm with you that there should be something for winning your division. And for me, the something is you get into the playoffs. But I think if you win your division and there are wild card teams with better records than you, my case would be you still get in automatic bid for winning the division, kind of like a mid-major conference in college basketball, right? Like they get one guaranteed bid. You could go undefeated all season, then lose your conference tournament to a team that has 2 wins, and they get to go instead of you out of the Horizon League or whatever the the Sun Belt, whatever the conference is that doesn't send a bunch of teams. I think that should be your automatic bid. But since we reseed after each round anyway, I'd be in favor of saying, hey, yeah, you get in because you won your division at 8-9 or 9-8. But you don't get to be the number 4 seed just because you played in a bad division. You don't get rewarded for being a mediocre team. You can also figure something out with head-to-head. I mean, the Niners would have beaten Carolina head-to-head. Would they have to travel there? So I think there'd be ways to do it, but you would be taking something away from a division crown. That said, don't we think the third best team in the NFC West this year is better than the best team in the South?
Yes.
Whoever it is.
But here's my question for you. If the 49ers won the division at 8-9 and then had to go on the road to Green Bay because they were the wild card team with a better record, I feel like you would not like that plan as much. I could be wrong.
I wouldn't, but I would feel like if Green Bay had 13 wins, I'd be like, what's my case here? They've got far more, in baseball, it's a little different because now you're like, you win the division and then you have to play in the first round unless you're the number 1 or 2 seed. And I think that's kind of lame. I'm like, why do we play for 6 months? You've taken away any value of the division. So anyway, the one other game tomorrow that is a winner go home, Sunday Night Football, could be the last Aaron Rodgers game against the Baltimore Ravens. That's a fun one. Mm-hmm. Sunday Night Football for the North.
That'll be fun. Aaron Rodgers, I think, still has some gas left in the tank.
I think he could be back, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see his decision, but as a fan, I love watching him play.
We are under an hour and a half from kickoff. We'll get you the actives and inactives for the Niners and the Seahawks. By the way, Rashid Shaheed had a big game against the Rams and then was in the concussion protocol last week. He has no designation on special teams coming into this one. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler. It's Week 18. The Niners and the Seahawks. We'll catch up with Tim Ryan in the broadcast booth when we come on back, only here on the Sports Leader. Back with your 49er player spotlight ahead of Week 18, the Niners and the Seahawks, and one of the top units for the 49ers on the back half of the season and part of this 6-game win streak has been the offensive line. So we'll make Dominic Puni, the second-year guard, our 49er player spotlight. Brock Purdy playing with tons of confidence. It starts in the trenches. Puni's been so good. The offensive line has been so good as they've gotten a lot of continuity over the last several weeks to the point where they rushed for an average of 161 yards a game over the last 3 weeks. That's third best in the NFL. Brock Purdy is playing great with a clean pocket, only sacked one time last week. The offense is at its best. Or is at the high point as it's been for how it's been all season long. 40-plus points again last week in a win over the Chicago Bears. It was Dominic Puni earlier this week talking about how the 49er faithful show up and have showed out all season long.
Man, it's actually been crazy. We were at New York, across the country, and it's like a home game. I was so shocked, man. We have the best fan base, in the world, and the way they travel is just so crazy. And at home games, Sunday night, it was rocking, man. It was so loud, and it just gives us such a home field advantage. But I think I've heard, other quarterbacks at away teams say that they've never experienced a home game like that for them, where our crowd was louder than them. So I mean, it's so cool. I couldn't imagine feeling like an away game while at home for other teams. So I mean, they do their thing, they pop out, and I love them.
Well, Seattle known as one of the best home field advantages in all of pro sports, specifically in the NFL. The Niners went up and got a win there earlier this year. They'll need the faithful to show out today for a chance to play home games throughout the playoffs. That's why the O-line and Dominic Puni are this week's 49er player spotlight. As big as it gets, Week 18, the Niners and the Seahawks, and the number one seed is on the line. We'll go up to the broadcast booth where Greg Papa will be making his season debut today alongside our next guest, Tim Ryan. Tim, what's going on, bro? How you doing, man?
Fired up. I'm blacked out right now, Coach. Let's just start it with that. And I am so grateful to have my play caller back in Pop. This is going to be fun. Obviously, a huge night. It's a brawl for it all in terms of the number one seed. You guys know everything on the line. This game's going to get dirty, and I think when you look at how both of these teams want to play, and there are a lot of similarities. Now, they are much better on defense across the board in the way that they've played this year, so that'll be a big big challenge for the offense, and we'll see if they can slow down that juggernaut. And then defensively, let's just get on the roller coaster and see what happens, because I think when you look at Sam Darnold, and I know he's got a lot on the line with a bunch of incentives, he's a very, very talented guy. But if the 49ers can contain their run game, and I like the and their offense has been up and down. They are very good at scoring 29 points a game. You guys know all the numbers. They're very good in some situational football. But they have been up and down and inconsistent. And I think on the interior, I think they can own that matchup versus Bradford and Zabel and Sundell. And then they're without their starting left tackle and Howard Cross. The guys on the edges just have to play with great discipline and patience, because and they like to peek and they like to fall back inside if they think the run's going up in there. Kenneth Walker will bounce to the edge in a heartbeat and will make you look stupid with his skill set. So discipline, run defense, and then somehow, some way, whether it's taking the first read away, playing some tight coverage, leaning help over to Jackson Smith and Jigba, got to get Sam Darnold off of his first read. He will get happy feet. He will get indecisive. And as good as he is and as talented as he is, and we all know, following him since his USC days and his NFL career, and we obviously got real tight with him when he was here. He's the human jugs machine, the way that he can spin the ball. But because he's got that talent, it does get him in trouble sometimes playing some hero ball when things break down. And you guys know the number with the 20 giveaways and the 14 picks and the 6 lost fumbles. So got to get this game in Sam Darnold's hands and see if 14 can make plays at crunch time for those guys.
Back-to-back USC QBs the 49ers are facing. And talk about Upton Stout's return. I thought he was outstanding against the Colts, and him coming back this week. What difference does he make for that secondary?
Well, he's huge in run defense because of how he triggers in the run game. And we love the way that he plays, and I know all the faithful do as well. He's going to have to be tight on Cooper Kupp, period. Cooper Kupp is an outstanding player, and they'll move other guys in the slot as well. But Stout can get in people's hip pockets with his foot speed. The whole thing with Stout, and really the rest of the defense with all the young defenders back there, and I think it's going to be Renardo Green out on the island tonight, starting the game instead of Darrell Luter. I think the neck is fine, and Renardo's going to be back in the lineup. Nothing easy. In terms of coverage breakdowns and mental errors in terms of coverage. If the 49ers play man, and I anticipate at times they will play some man, they've got to be able to handle those bunch sets, and when Seattle's 3 guys together and get them all clustered up and they start going in different directions, that everybody knows what the rules are and who they cover and who they've got. They can run with these receivers. The question is I want them fighting and playing rather than thinking and making mental errors. I think that'll go a long way. Make them earn every inch.
Kickoff coming your way right here on The Sports Leader at 5 o'clock. Tim Ryan and Greg Papa will be on the call for this one. No Trent Williams in the game. He left after the first play last week. Austin Pleasance played really well. The whole O-line has been playing well basically since Brock has returned. Your thoughts and confidence in the O-line play as Austin Pleasance makes his first start in the NFL with the number 1 seed on the line? Yeah, well, he was obviously good last week. This will be a different challenge with their front and how they count on their front to make plays. And Nwosu can play, Mafe can play, Derek Hall. Those guys got a lot of speed coming off the edge. And then DeMarcus Lawrence is going to the Pro Bowl, and he'll multi-align and he'll go everywhere. So I talked to Austin before the game, just down on the field about 10 minutes ago. I said, just trust yourself, big dog. I mean, that guy, in the journey that he's been on 6 teams in 5 years, mostly practice squad, because he is so skilled. He is 6'8", he's 338 pounds or something, and he doesn't have any fat on him. He has got all the talent. He's just got to trust himself and trust his footwork and his technique. And Furster is very good at getting those guys ready to play, and he has gotten multitudes better since he's been here. And I think Braxton, a lot's been reported about him practicing for Trent Williams on veteran days with the ones. I think that's a feather in his cap, no doubt. He'll get beat a time or two, but in terms of the long haul over the course of the game, and when that big dog is playing to the whistle, and that's been the whole thing with the offensive line. This is a mindset game. Every inch, every yard is going to count
when you see the offensive line pushing the pile, you know they're playing to the whistle. And when that big boy's going to the whistle, guys are getting moved. So, Brendel's been playing outstanding over the last couple of games. The guards, Puni is found his stride again. Burford's playing good. McKivitz is McKivitz. He road grades guys and plays well. And McCaffrey looked as good as he's looked in a while in that game last week against Chicago. So, got to be able to run it and get the play action going. I think when you look at Seattle defensively and watch them on tape, as good as they are, and they're not going to give up any explosive plays. They play a lot of two-shell coverage. I'll be curious to what their plan is with Eman Wari, lining up on McCaffrey and see how they handle that whole thing. But I think the thing with these guys is you got to handle the front and you got to be able to get yards after the catch. There will be space underneath versus this defense and these linebackers. And the way this defense is designed, very aggressive on the corners, try to funnel everything back to the middle of the field. Drake Thomas and Ernest Jones, good players. Drake Thomas has been a bit of a surprise. He's not very big, but, man, he plays hard and gets after it. Ernest Jones can get his hands on the ball. We know that with his 5 interceptions. But their spacing isn't always great. So Kittle, when you watch this defense against tight ends, Kittle should have a big day in this one, and Brock should be able to find the holes as well as he's been playing. And the Brock clock's on time, and he's ripping it, and he's decisive. And then when it's not there, that he can extend plays with his footwork and get outside the pocket. 49ers should be able to do their thing.
Well, how about Brock Purdy coming off a pick 6 on the first play of the game? We talked about how well he's played the last 2 weeks in particular, but he's been great since he came back 6 weeks ago. But to overcome that first play and all the momentum shift and everything mentally that goes into the start of that game, and to have that setback and then to come back and account for 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, that's Brock. I mean, he believes in himself. He believes in his skill set. He believes in his preparation. The coaches, Kyle, and the play calling has been really off the charts. And I think they feel like there's going to be some holes in this defense if the QB can play like he's been playing. And I heard you guys talking about the 6-game win streak coming into this game. They're 36 points a game. There is not a more explosive offense in pro football. A big part of it's the O-line and how they're playing. And a big part of it is Brock doing his thing in terms of the precision, the timing, and the footwork. And let's not forget, it got unveiled at Cleveland. Brock's ability, and we saw it at Iowa State, to run down in the low red zone and have those plays and those opportunities. Whether they call them or not, I don't know. But Seattle certainly had to prepare for it, which could open up some other things. But I know there's going to be some wrinkles in this game for this team offensively because Mike McDonald's been pretty good at defending and kind of reading the indicators of the motions and the landmarks and the formations and where the run is going, seemingly always stunting in the right direction and putting an extra defender in there. I'm sure Kyle's got something up his sleeve, getting his tool bag and have a couple of wrinkles in the run game to get these guys off balance.
Tim Ryan will be on the call coming up in just a few minutes. We'll hand it over to Tim and to Greg Papa, who'll take you up to and through kickoff. Tim, blacked out week 18, bro. Let's go get the one.
Blacked out. Let's go.
Have a great call, Tim. We'll see you upstairs.
Great talking to you guys. Have fun.
You too, man. We are fired up. Week 18 is here. The Niners and the Seattle Seahawks. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak with you ahead of Week 18. The number 1 seed is on the line. We'll take a quick break. We'll give you our final thoughts when we come on back and the actives and inactives for the Niners and the Seahawks. It's Week 18. The number 1 seed is up for grabs right here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Todd Husak with you live from Levi Stadium, getting ready to sign off and hand it over to Tim Ryan and Greg Papa for his return in 2025 for Week 18, the Niners and the Seahawks. Really quickly here before we get to the keys to the game, the inactives and actives for the 49ers for tonight. Trent Williams, as expected, not going to play in this one. Also inactive, Isaac Guerrero. Kevin Givens has been missing a lot of time. Robert Beal, Curtis Robinson is not going to play today as they elevated Eric Kendricks. Chase Lucas not playing. Austin Pleasant's going to make his first NFL start with the 1 seed on the line, and sort of a surprise, Ricky Pearsall is going to miss this game. So no Ricky, no Trent in terms of your offensive starters. Pointed out Rashid Shaheed was in the concussion protocol into this week, but he went limited, full, so he's going to be available today for the Seahawks. Time for the keys to the game, sponsored by your Bay Area Chevy dealers. Visit BayAreaChevroletDealers.com. Todd, your key for the Niner victory in this one. I mean, it's nothing bigger here in terms of what this could mean for them and their playoff hopes.
Pearsall being out, I think, changes how they can attack. There's no proven weapon at the other wide receiver spot. Hopefully they can get some production, but I think it's got to be a George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey game like we've seen a lot of the last couple months of this season. And the way the 49er offense has played the last 3 weeks, averaging over 40 points a game, they've got to figure out a way to keep the chains moving. We've talked about it all season. Third downs in red zone, converting into touchdowns has been the strength, the one overwhelming strength for this 49er offense. Keep that going. Don't settle for 3. Finish in the end zone. And that's where Kyle Shanahan and this offense has really excelled. We've talked about it, but guys being wide open inside the 20 where play calling gets a little different because the secondary doesn't have to defend the deep ball. They've done such a great job of calling plays and executing plays inside the 20. They've got to do that again tonight.
Well, both teams on a 6-game win streak. The Niners have been the hottest offense in all of football in this win streak, over 35 points a game. Seattle, though, number 3 in the NFL in second half points, and they've come back and put up big numbers in the second halves of a lot of these games throughout their 6-game win streak. So something's got to give today. You want to start fast, but this is a bring your lunch pail game, taking on Seattle and potentially the offensive player of the year in Jackson Smith in Jigba. We will get ready to hand it over here to Tim Ryan and to Greg Papa. They'll take you up to and through kickoff for a 5 p.m. kick right here on the Sports Leader. Thanks to Kyle Harback in the studio, our producer Tim Webb, Matt Mayoko, Tim Ryan, and Larry Krueger, who all joined us today on the pregame. Todd, myself, and Tracy Sandler will be back with you for the postgame 5 o'clock kick. It's the Niners and the Seahawks, Week 18, and it's only here on the Sports Leader.